to say good morning, wish everyone a happy Sunday, and to acknowledge, of course, Dr. King's birthday, which is in reality on the 15th and celebrated on that third Monday of every January. Um, and Even as your dear leader chips away at the acknowledgments and the celebrations of Dr. King's birthday. That's something that, with all of the book burning that Donald J. Trump and his cast of clowns do now and will continue to do each and every day, we're not going to allow them to take any part of our collective history away. And they'll take little bites, and then we'll punch back and do what we can to fix things. So we just have to make our best efforts to acknowledge those that are worthy of that grace, and to protect the memory, and more importantly, the lessons that that we learned from Dr. King and the many other brave champions of equality and civil rights, and all that he has, all that he espoused his entire lifetime. So we salute you, Dr. King, and another gentleman, uh, as those of you that have been tuned to the channel over the past week know that I have had from a subject matter point of view, my dalliances with the white Christian nationalists and the Nazis recently, because it's just so it is it is woven into the fabric of nearly everything that the Trump administration is doing. The messaging, right? The hate, and and all of the efforts to whitewash everything within reach, and these to distract while the malign forces try to do that to our history, to erase the truth, to deluge us with so much bullshit that in the hopes that we lose sight of what is true and real, and what makes our society the one that we'll have even after the fascist rampage and DJT and JD Vance fighting tirelessly for the human and speech rights of Nazis, both foreign and domestic, and all of these examples of how not to be a good human being when they're all gone. And as everything, those of you of more tender years than this old dude here, it may seem very desperate at times, and it's serious. It is. It is. It's desperate in a way, but that isn't really, having been, you go through cycles. And while I was not old enough to be on the front lines of the anti-war movements during Vietnam, it was, as I explained about my quote unquote experiences in World War II, were, just like many of you, you experience them through your parents and your family, and that the profound impact that World War II had on my parents. There was some German parentage in the mix. But we are an American family. We're Midwestern born. All of my sib and my parents were all born in Cleveland, although we're Bostonians. We got the heck out of there there as quickly as we could. Um, uh, via ironically uh, having lived in Memphis, living in Memphis on the day that Dr. King was killed. So that is a sad connection to that magnificent legacy of Dr. King and being a young man and in a city that was at a in a country that was coming apart, in a city that obviously was in flux after the killing of Dr. King, and one of the neighbors in the background voicing his opinion on the importance of acknowledging Dr. King's memory. I am outside, so the dog, the dog doesn't know that it's podcast time. He knows that perhaps it's the Sabbath. He knows perhaps that there will be treats on the other end of the exercise walk, and he is excited. So my apologies, but I love to take every opportunity to get outside. The other great man, and I'm not focusing in a Trumpian misogynistic manner on just you know uh, Miss Rosa Parks. I salute you too, madam. So I'm not just talking about the fellas, but Archbishop impact as impactful as a Midwestern born, Boston raised uh, African American leader can be. Boston, MLK went to school at BU. He had a connection to Boston. So everyone was aware of him, but you feel a little bit more of a personal connection because he was connected to my city when I was a young man. And I was a young man that was here. And when I was an older man, and for better part of 25 plus years, it was Miami and with a Venezuelan interlude, not an interlude like Donald J. Trump is enjoying in Venezuela, a wonderful, warm and eye-opening, enriching, and uh, loving interlude in Venezuela. But here's Boston, Dr. King, Boston University, Boston also Malcolm X, right? But the man that I always kind of fall back on, the man that I think about most frequently when when people are doing silly racist bullshit, when people are engaged in hating other people for the color of their skin, the languages they speak, and lots of the other things. But this is America, the legacy of slavery, the one that the GOP, the Republicans, the white Christian nationalists, the Nazis, the neo Nazis, the ultra fascists, the proto fascists, and all of all of them conspiring to whitewash our American experiences in such a way, as I mentioned yesterday and perhaps the day before when I was talking about Woodrow Wilson, wanting to suggest that we could return to a time that never was. This idealized America, right? And all you have to do is want to know about it. You don't have to be a scholar of American history to know about how troubled our past is. You only have to be here now to know how troubled our present is, and that is the cycle, and that will continue until there is no more time, the end of days, um, or some version of that. But there will always be upheaval, and there will always be racists, and there will always be, the leaders that believe they can make uh, a change that can promulgate a master race, if you'll excuse the expression. It brings me back to Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, uh, born in and died in South Africa. A magnificent man of God who spoke passionately about the human condition more generally. But what, as kind of if you will, a cheat code for so much of what ails us as human beings that are either witness to or that are either imbued with this sort of this racism for those that are, or that the ones that are disgusted by those around us that display that sort of behavior. The Archbishop Desmond Tutu, among the many other brilliant things he said, was, "We are all Africans." Right? We are all Africans. Each and every one. I don't know about the other species. I'm thinking of the dog that crashed the podcast here today. But humans, we are all Africans. So, and that is a fact. However much scrubbing, whitewashing, Republican talking points, praising Jesus as your compatriots in the Senate and House stand by while people are brutalized by a president who's a game show host, and you're too worried about your job to stand up and be a human. And you do that by calling out to your Lord and Savior and saying that you are behaving in some sort of way that deserves God's grace. And it's maddening. I am not a I'm not a I am not a as regular a practitioner of traditional religious pursuits as many. You would have guessed that, probably. But I come back to this because of the hypocrisy is just it's glaring. It's on it's turned up to 11 right now. And John Thune, the man that runs that clown show called the US Senate, right? Mikey Mike Johnson, the man that runs the other clown show known as the House of Representatives. Thune could stand up and get three other guys or gals and stop just about all of the cruelty and the anti-democratic actions that are clearly contrary to our values and our Constitution. Is he telling himself Well, it's okay because I'll wait for the Supreme Court. I don't know what he tells himself at night. I'm not, I don't have his number or vice versa. But I want each and every voter, each and every citizen, each and every human to remember that as the midterm elections approach. And everybody, every senator, regardless of party, is complicit in what's going on now because that initial Trump 2.0 quote unquote grace period when people were, well, I like his tax policy, you know. Oh, and the southern border was there were a million people coming across a day, and they were all ISIS and Taliban. So we got to let Trump be Trump, right? No, no, that that could have been after, I don't know, what's 72 hours after the count up the first 100, excuse me, 1,000 pardons. Then the grace period was over, right? Then it's just greed, greed for power, greed for money, greed for position, greed for influence, and not wanting to upset your lifestyle, even while your kids and grandkids must just absolutely fucking hate you. They have to, right? I mean, think about it. They're watching you sit in your cloakroom and your private dining room and standing by while a woman is shot 3 times. And for the traditional MAGA folks, this just in, she also a white woman shot, right? And then they went back and shot a Venezuelan dude that, as far as I saw in the news reports, is that he was here. He was excuse me. He was an undocumented gentleman, originally from Venezuela, living in the United States in the Twin City area, and he was trying to quite reasonably the whole thing about the shovel, the Christy Nome, uh, Pamela Joe Bondi bullshit, shovel, axe murderer stuff. No, but he was fleeing, trying to avoid arrest, and they shot him in the leg. We can do this without being cruel. We can do this without shooting people. You know, if if the person draws a gun on a federal officer, on any officer, that's it. End of story. Shoot him, kill him, right? But it's being the weapons, these weapons and the weapons of war that may be coming are being used as a tool of tyranny, right? And this is all the laying the predicate to, I know it gets tiring to hear of laying the predicate for elections, but it's very true. And now the election's this year, right? The election is now, using the old school math, it's less than 11 months from now, right? So this is now, and this matters. So start thinking about what I'm always writing about, or more likely speaking about collective action, and I do my best every single day, as I've said, with my beloved she who must be obeyed, and anybody else that will, excuse me, anybody else who will listen to me, about just Do your part. You don't have to change the entire world. You don't have to take all of the burden on your shoulders. Just by when you decide that, well, Ford Motor Company, right? Recently s- smearing themselves with excrement. Now, back at the beginning, we've talked about Ford before on in this forum about Henry Ford being one of the most miserable racists and anti-Semites in the history of mankind, much like your very former president, Woodrow Wilson. People are like, well, yeah, well, you don't understand what it was like at the turn of that last century because it was, it was just, we're just coming out of Reconstruction and it was a different time. And so attitudes were different. They were different. But there were other human beings with unhealthy skin tones resembling my very own who did not behave like despicable fucking monsters towards people that had a different skin color, monsters towards African Americans, presumably towards Mexican residents of the United States, because we took a piece of Mexico and they were still here. They were home, and we stole their homes. Right? We know about what happened with the internment camps and Japanese during the Second World War. Kiramatsu. Yeah, it's not a wonderful legacy, right? Uh, 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 Jewish Americans, right? Not a legacy covered in gold, real gold, not Trump White House $2.25 gold leaf from Home Depot, but the real thing, not the not the what is it, the A Thousand Points of Light. Who was that? George Bush the Younger, right? That was that was the the shining city on the hill, aspirational United States from two guys that were born in the 20s, plus or minus. Aspirations are great, but this is not the time to be fooling ourselves that things were different than they actually were, because people use that, feeble minded people use that as a justification for behavior today. It's like, oh no, you're blowing that whole Cherokee relocation thing, the whole slavery thing, the whole Holocaust thing. You know, you're really, that it's so long. I mean, that's a different time. It's I'm a white person of privilege. It's inconvenient for me to suffer the indignity of that. And you saw your freaking president saying you don't have to be embarrassed to be an American anymore. By saying that to people he's supposed to lead and inspire and protect, and not rip off and hurt, injure every single day, just by saying, America, you don't have to apologize anymore. That means we still have to apologize. That's to John Roberts, Sammy Samuelito, Clarence Thomas, and the other leading lights on the radical right of the Supreme Court. Um, Amy Coney Barrett, we're kind of leaving her to the side because we're keeping a little bit of hope because we're going to need her in about 5 minutes. Um, Gorsuch and Mr. Don't call it a Kavanaugh stop Kavanaugh. Yeah. Um, Times that's going to pop soon. I mean, they're going to have to show up. We need adult leadership. We need we need Thune. We need, even Mikey Mike is we're running right up against Mardi Gras and I know he's famous for taking time out to groom his grinder profile and be ready for Mardi Gras, right? I jest. Maybe I know. But we need Thune and we need Roberts. We need adults to stand up. And once they do, the math is quite easy when you break it down to that Thune, call it Thune plus 4, right? Just to tip the balance enough, not to stop everything, not to burn the big beautiful bill. That ain't gonna happen. Won't happen until we take control of much more than much more than achieving parity in one branch of government. Because you know, to be realistic, if we excuse me, when we recapture the White House and when we recapture the legislature, it will be quite some time, even with creative machinations and expanding the Supreme Court. If we could get it done, it's real tough sledding. That we're going to be, and there's still, and by 2028, there's going to be uh, more mega redistricting that's going to wipe out anything resembling VRA, Voting Rights Act remnants, the modest slivers that are remaining from the VRA are going to be wiped out. And so representative districts for African Americans in many states are going to go. We're going to need a constitutional convention. We're going to need to do some work. And obviously, Donald Trump has, if he's done anything for us, he has taken out a highlighter or his micro and pissed on everything. He's identified a lot of things that need to be fixed by his bad behavior. Right? But and Sunday I mentioned to you, and I promised to my higher power inside that door, the two-legged version, that I would keep it moving. So I'm going to just one more time. I legitimately, I would guess that I think about Desmond Tutu and those simple words. I think about them frequently. I think he passed away 5 years ago, plus or minus, something like that. But I've watched plenty of his speeches and sermons, and you know, UN or wherever else he was he. And if you're not familiar with the good Archbishop, then there's something called the YouTube machine. He's one of those human beings, right? That I've watched every speech available on Dr. King and lots of other people, just about every Kennedy except anybody bad examples. Um, but Dr. King, perhaps by his own admission, was a more austere, you know, an immensely talented communicator, powerful, right? A po- he was a powerful man, a powerful speaker. You could feel the energy, right, coming off the speed. Even in the, I'm looking at it on freaking YouTube. I was not. Um, I was not in front of the Capitol. I wasn't looking at the reflecting. I wasn't in the moment. Nor was I for Desmond Tutu, but I've watched him, more, in the last decade a number of times, and he glows with something that oftentimes a person would say a holy man, although he is, because that has, I think, in America, that has connotations of of that snake oil quality, right? The Jerry Falwells of the world he was kind of a holy man, but he was what, an inspirational preacher, whatever the heck he was, an imperfect man, as we all are, unless we are imperfect women, unless we are imperfect non-binary, unless we are imperfect uh, in another category that I'm going to um, fail to mention. But if you watch Desmond Tutu and you watch the sincere love that flows out of every pore in his body when he spoke, you smile. He had he had the most electric and contagious smile. There are certain people that have it. I'm not gonna, excuse me. I just I watched a clip last night with Julia Roberts, right? So yeah, crush, of course. Yeah, I'm alive, there. Um, but Desmond Tutu, take a 2 minute YouTube tour of his life, his speeches. Look at it for 15 minutes and tell me I'm wrong. He he just you watch him and you're just like you're he takes like weight off of your shoulders and makes you feel hopeful about humanity because he didn't have an easy road. Right? South Africa, you may have heard, uh, things were a little chippy down there for an extended period of time. It's dangerous now if you're a white farmer, but there's hope for you. So if you're a white farmer, please go to whitehouse.gov, and what they will do for you, only white, presumably only farmer, but definitely only white, they'll help to relocate you to the United States, get you set up with housing, and certainly get you registered to vote, and expedite your citizenship naturalization process at a speed that you would not believe. You're good, right? DJT is going to hook you up. Yes, he will, because you're his kind of people. You're whiter than Christmas, whiter than snow, and kind of a cool accent, except for the whole lethal weapon. Yeah, whatever. But um, DJT, and one final mention for uh, how I how the dear Archbishop came to me this morning. Um, while I was at this morning at three a.m. Eastern. I was just sitting around reading a little bit and watching a couple of horses run around in Hong Kong. Also, uh, now I've not joined the Chinese Communist Party, but if there is a if there is an equine version of the Chinese Communist Party, I may be in. Just so you know. Um, yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. We're all Africans. At this time, when so many people are going out of their way to be cruel to other human beings. Some weird noises. Sounds like the uh, plane having trouble. So I guess we'll find out. Being cruel and spewing virulent, racist tropes nonstop, and a president and administration that is, in fact, acting in ways to encourage more of that same sort of behavior. Tough times. It's going to be hard for all of us, harder for some, less difficult for pasty white older dudes, for sure, right? Privileged class, not just, Um, did I mention that the city of Boston has over 30 professional sports championships? Did I bring that up? Was that part of the show today? No? Okay. Celtics, what, 18? Sucks. 6? Maybe 6. There's 2 with 6. Is it the Bruins and the Sox? And then the Celtics have 18 and the Patriots have right, so the Patriots have 6. So, okay. Yeah, so yeah, 30 30-esque. Best sports town in the universe. And we are getting some of that World Cup action this summer, just in time for the Trump administration to really just absolutely blow it up and make an international incident out of something that's supposed to be a fellowship of young, in this instance, men coming together to celebrate diversity. Probably won't be the top line word on the White House description of the FIFA it, get paid FIFA World Cup. But think about if you're watching the news, you hear about the next, not if, when, because you know what we're dealing with right now. The next politician, the next Trump administration official, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, Pamela Joe Bondi, or your own vice president, JD. I kind of hate the fact that I married an Indian woman, Vance, and I got light brown children, and I don't really want to talk about it, Vance, which is just beyond despicable. The next time you see that, think to yourself of, Dr. King, anytime, any day, right? The great uh, quotes that will warm your heart and make you think and frighten you because they remind you what the what the great man did for our country and the ultimate sacrifice that he made on the balcony at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, in '69. But think of that. We're all Africans. That we all all of human life, all of human endeavor, everything began there, right? The total number of years. I'm not a scientist, right? But that, if you look at the Indo Indo-Aryan language, Aryan, AB, Aryan Brotherhood, one of the largest and most successful white supremacist gangs in American prison history. Great for them. They're on the podium. They're at the top. There are competitors, right? But Aryan Nation, going back to Nazis, right? Aryan, pure Aryan nation to eliminate those that are not pure. They captured, much like what's happening today, is they captured an idea and twisted it, transmogrified, made it their own in a disingenuous way, right? That the Aryans were not, you know, uh, didn't all look like Dolph Lundgren. Okay, not all blonde hair, blue eyed, uh, 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 Dieter. That isn't who the Aryans were, right? The um, Indo-Aryan groups. That's 2,000 years before Christ. And as you know, probably, saying we're all Africans, we all evolved in different ways as we left the African continent. And there were many groups that went north, and I'll get my directions straight. They went up, they went north to what were the steppes, right? Which is near or above, or a place where you've seen that you've seen on a map a lot. Think about Ukraine, across Ukraine, Russia, and reaching up to what Kazakhstan and up to Siberia. Right, these plains that were and very fertile, therefore sustain agriculture. And Ukraine, uh, when Donald J. Trump's controller Vladimir Putin is not firing missiles at Ukraine, Ukraine has wonderful agricultural industry and potential, and has had it for a long time. Right, very fertile ground. So these groups went. My hands are getting cold, so I won't bore you for much longer. But you know, everybody that left the African continent had a much healthier complexion because, breaking news, if you just got here, it's sunny and hot down there. Okay, so over time, when these groups moved out of Africa, not the movie, different, they went up to the steppes, set up shop, got a little cold, dealt with it, and over thousands of years, because biologically the skin tone changes in order to more efficiently process vitamin D. Believe it or not, that's a kind of a neat thing. It sounds like something sounds like something my radiologist told me. No, just joking. So that happened, and people got unhealthier skin tones. And the funny part is, what if the same people, European, and they went, I've got a little pop up here, that the Europeans Pilgrims, down south, MAGA, real pale, and then global warming, and we ruin the ozone layer, and they get more sunburn, they get red necks, and they get more skin cancer. How about that? Uh, Evolution is a wonderful thing. It's also a bitch. Um, but history is truly, it's undefeated, even with all of the enemies that are fighting against it right now. Do your best to for your kids and your grandkids to keep it real, as the kids say, right? Keep it real for them. And whatever's going on in the schools, fight for it. Even if you don't have a kid, your kids have left the public school system. Advocate for the next generation because they're doing sneaky ass fascist MAGA shit to remove references to Harriet Tubman, remove references to the Underground Railroad, remove references to Emmett Till. All of those things, they're trying to whitewash. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. It's there in the name for you, right? Not good. Not good. But it's consistent and it's on 11 all the time right now. So stand up where you can. Don't get hurt unless you're looking for that kind of action. But you can do your part. Just that the company that's supporting the regime, right? Look at the one last thing because my phone's running out of battery is the Black Panther Party, a callback to 60s collective action, right? Mr. Huey to you. Right? They're standing up in Philly for, they're standing up for African American people who live in Philly, but they're standing up for diverse populations that are under pressure. They're standing up for their brothers and sisters in a Philly sense against the forces that are trying to harm them. ICE, border protection. Look into that a little bit too if you want some inspiration. Mr. Dr. King was nonviolence, and the Black Panther Party is more force equal to that with which you attack me, you're getting it back. So you want to talk about what was it that they said about the DJT said about the racists in Virginia was stand down but stand by or whatever that was. Yeah, just be aware because they're working hard. No days off for the fascists. Wishing you all a beautiful day. Take a look at something by Archbishop Desmond Tutu on YouTube or otherwise. I'll try to find something and post it later. And wishing you all a beautiful day. Thank you very much.